Hi, book club members. I'm Jen.
And I'm Carrie.
And welcome to Warhammer 40k Book Club, where we read from a crag. This is episode number 46, and our book is The Gate of Bones, the second book in the Dawn of Fire series by Andy Clark. The book is about Chaos's attempt to take over a shrine world, a storied shrine world within the Imperium. We posted several questions on our website, wh40kbookclub.com, and we encourage participation in our discussions via Twitter, our site, or Encrypted Vox channel. Spoiler warning, if you haven't yet read this book, go check out the book and our questions, and then come back to this post, as we'll be discussing it from the book from start to finish in great detail. With that, let's dive in. Did you like the book?
Sorry, I just got this book today, so I didn't realize there's anything written on the back until you picked it up. I'm like, oh.
Yes, we both had to, because of shipping delays, we had to get this digitally so that we could read it digitally. And we were both really super excited to go and pick it up today. I will never get over these limited editions. They're just so nice.
Agreed.
Even if it's textured.
Even if we don't like the book. But I did like this one. I liked this one
I was
a
like,
lot.
oh, wow.
No, but I liked this one a lot.
I liked it. The beginning and the end felt a little disjointed to me. I felt that it kind of got off to a slow start and it kind of ended weird. But overall, like the middle portion of it, like when the stuff of the book was actually happening, really liked it. Which I was going in a little nervous because neither of us really liked Avenging Sun.
Right. I didn't think it started off that slow, but probably because I found like the introduction stuff funny.
Right.
So,
well, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean,
so what scene stood out to you?
Well, you know, because we got to meet Lucerne, who's like probably the only Imperial fist with a sense of humor. So the scene that stood out to me actually has to do with Lucerne, and it's when they're riding in that tank basically to actually go out to war, but it's not big enough for them to sit in the seats, so they have to sit on the floor, and they're all hunched over, and he starts giggling. One guy's like, what's so funny? He's like, well, with all the training we went through, we never once trained for this. And some of them laughed.
The rest of them are like, that's true, actually.
You know, a couple laughed, and then was like, it's not that funny. Like, okay, have a sense of humor.
You're wrong, though.
Right? Almost like any moments with the Custodes, because we've only been able to get to know a few Custodes in the past. And so it's really been like Valerian, a little bit of the name of the chapter master, I forget his name. Starts with a V. Anyway,
it's not Baldor. It's
like Valoris or something like that.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so but him, so we got to know him a little bit. We got to see Colquhoun a little, like just kind of snippets. But this we get to see a little bit more of Colquhoun and kind of understand him a little better. But we also get to meet this whole other host of Custodes and really just kind of see what they're about. Like I really felt this was more of a Custodes book than anything about, you know, hey, that we've been unleashed and let's just show you what we can do when we're not hanging out in the Emperor's halls.
Pretty much. I have to say really quick about Lucerne. So Lucerne is a brand of milk, and I do not like milk. So it was really funny to me because I was like, the Imperial Fist, they would name somebody after milk because it's boring. Anyways, every time I saw his name, I was like, milk.
But he was definitely not the milk toast of Imperial Fist.
No, he was not. He had a lot of good. Yes, he had good personality. Obviously, being an Iron Warriors fan, I really liked Locke, and
I knew you would.
Oh my god! There's two things about Locke that I want to draw attention to. One, I always really struggle. Like one of the reasons that I really like the Iron Warriors is that they tend to kind of eschew the demon worship, and they're more of like, chaos is just a tool. So it's kind of fun to see him. And I loved the fact that he still had a lodge medallion around his neck that he played with all the time. I thought that was really cool. The part that really stood out to me is, of course, at the end when he starts chanting over and over again for the powers, the powers, the powers. And then all of a sudden, in a voice that is not his, he hears iron within, iron without. And if that is not my man, Peter Turbo, reaching out...
I don't think so.
I don't know, but I read that and was like... So I don't love the demon or chaos-infused Iron Warriors, but I'll make an exception for him. And you guys, this is what a heretic I am. When he killed Jessavain, I was like, good!
Well, I knew she was going to die. I knew she was going to die early on in the book because she was so reckless. And everything she did was not for what was best for her group or for everybody else, but it was like almost for her own glory. Like she was...
Her own glory.
And we've seen time and time again what happens with that own glory. And when you try to go for your own glory, and even the final battle with Locke, it even says black and white in there that he was pulling her into a kill box.
Yeah.
But she was so angry and so blinded that she knew what she was doing was right. She didn't even notice.
Well, she was the classic character, and this is really interesting because I think I've mentioned a few times in this podcast how much I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, because Avatar: The Last Airbender cast a lot of traditionally male roles as females. So Azula, of course, is a wonderful example, but Toph is probably the best. Jessavain was very much that traditional male. I'm a bit of a hothead. I have something to prove. I need to live up to my father's image. But in her case, she needs to live up to her mother's image. So she really did have that chip on her shoulder. And for a while there, I was like, she's going to get to the end and she's going to be all smug about it. And then when I thought she killed my man Locke, I was a little upset. So when he crushed her head, I was like, good.
There was a lot of head crushing.
Okay, can we talk about that for 1 second? There was a lot of head crushing, and that's a scene that stood out to me because I had to go back and reread it. When Akalor's head gets misted. First off, have you seen the cover artwork? For being non-sexual entities, they continue to draw these people fine as hell. I was like, you cannot crush that gorgeous face. And they did.
I gasped when that happened because I was so shocked.
I have to agree with you. I was like, they can't. No, he's fine. And so then I went back and I was like, oh, he's not fine. Really not fine.
I actually went and woke up my husband. He was like, what? Oh, it's just your stupid book. And then rolled back over and went back to bed. But I was kind of like, okay, he got knocked out. All right. It dented in and it just knocked out. But then it talked about his headless corpse toppling over. I'm like,
my first thought is I was like, but they're a lot. I was like, they're a lot more. They're more, they have better regeneration than the Space Marines. So I was like, he's fine. This is going to be a soap dish moment. They're just going to stick it back on and it's going to be fine. Yeah. I'll just grow a new one like a gecko.
It's kind of hard when it's crushed in.
Very sad, and it really upset me. And I have to...
I was not happy.
We'll talk more about that later because there were some surprising deaths in this book, I felt like, actually. Mm-hmm. And of course, the other scene that really stood out to me, and you texted me and told me that I was going to have a moment, and of course, it's the flashback to the heresy where Corax is on a rampage.
Corax is not a happy bird.
Corax is real angry. And I know that we've seen this time and time again. We've seen Istvan, we've seen remembrances of the drop site massacre, and yet still when I see it, I'm always like, huh. Especially when they talked about his face being angry with like surprise and betrayal, and you're just like, I'm sorry, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it, and it was a surprising history for him, but it was also like, at first I was like, love it, but what's the point of this? And then of course they tell you that's when his friend saves his life.
It's when he gets to meet Kargathar.
I have to tell you, I could not, like, elongating it in my head, and you can thank ADB for that. Nargazar, like, hang out somewhere.
I'm sorry, when you have the R-dar, it just goes that way. You can't say it without a southern
like people
twang.
They should find somebody from like the United States to say these words for them.
Oh,
okay,
can you imagine?
It has to be someone from Texas. You can find a country girl like me, and we'll definitely.
Or a Bostonian. Kagatha.
Kagatha. Man, it was a wicked bad dropside massacre. Should have been there. Pretty much. Yeah. Or, yeah, I guess that's probably. Or I don't know. I don't know if the Yoopers would be very good with it.
Kargathar.
That word bearer, Kargathar. He's just a rotten egg, I tell ya. So we've got great accents, I'm telling you. But we'll talk more about him in a second. But I thought that was a nice way to be like, look, that's how long these people have been friends. And I don't know why, but for some reason, the depth of friendship that a lot of these Space Marines has, like, really gets me in the feels. Even when you see it, and it's very rare on the Chaos side, right?
Right.
Like, to see these BFFs. It just...
It's like, I actually made a note of that just because it kind of reminded me of stuff we read in the Black Legion series.
Very much so. Very much so.
Where is this quote?
That they still have this need for brotherhood.
He had wanted to see Kargathar, craved contact with the one being he still had any love for.
That, you guys, I think everybody knows, if you've listened to this podcast at all, I love my bitter man children. But that's becoming a real theme, because he definitely reminded me of Foryx from Storm of Iron. It's kind of, and this is going to bleed really well into our next question, because the Iron Warriors, again, they don't really have that faith. And we see this a lot with I'm pointing back because I have my Conrad Kurz book here. We see this a lot with the Night Lords too, that when you don't have faith, they don't seem to really have a purpose. And they start to get very nihilistic. And I kind of liked that with him, that he's just like, oh God, just kill it me now. End it now.
I thought I was so sad for him just because he's like, I just want the long war to be over. Like, he's already thinking about his retirement plans.
Basically, yeah. And as we know, there's really only one retirement plan. You don't get to go off and farm.
No.
I mean.
Yep. I mean, yeah. Your Primarch had retirement plans too. He had this nice retirement estate built in one of the mountains that'd be looking right up at his father's palace.
That did not work out for him.
No.
So, reading this book, I think I had texted you and I had said that this book really feels a lot like a spiritual sequel to Apocalypse. And that, to me, the biggest theme in this book is faith. Because we're constantly seeing those who are faithless, those who are struggling with their faith, those who eschew faith, those who reluctantly kind of embrace it, and then those who embrace it wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
So, first off, what do you think of, and I mean, this is like the second or third book that we've read recently where they're really leaning into the whole concept of the faith. What's your take on that?
My take on it is that we're going to see clashing heads, like, eventually. Because there was one great line, I think I highlighted it, but it talked about, might have been near the end, but regardless, it talked about how, that the Custodes don't have faith, which makes sense.
Right.
Because they're with the man every day.
Right. And they've been done told by the man.
Right. No, I didn't highlight it. But so you have that. You have, because I think the whole thing was like the Custodes staunchly do not believe. You have Reboot, who is not happy that there is a belief. But then you have the Battle Sisters, who thrive on that faith. And most of the Imperium thrives on that faith. So it's like this odd melding of the ones who know the truth about the Emperor, according to them anyway, is that, so they just go along with it to make the people happy. I did highlight this one quote. Man, let's see, who said this? Colquhoun. All this, the saints, the visions, the tarot, they are tools. They are a means by which we may exert control. They are useful.
Well, and so you have Colquhoun's very, I guess, very dim view on it, right? Like, look, it's just a tool for control.
I think he's pragmatic.
But that's a better word for it. A very pragmatic view of it. And then you have Acalor, who looks at it like, look at what these people are doing. Like, look at what the sisters are doing. There's something to this, I think. Mm-hmm. We don't have to agree and we don't have to participate in it, but like these women are getting stuff done. And there's that scene toward the end of the book where the sisters come marching in and they're all singing. Mm-hmm. And he sees the warrior in golden behind them and he's like, whoa.
Right.
So there's something, and we've always heard that, right? Especially in the sisters books. And you know what? I really am starting to think that Andy Clark writes the sisters the best. They are pragmatic. They are a little callous. Mm-hmm. They are very much enshrined and enrobed in their faith. And it is unflappable. But did you notice that there was none of the slashing wrists that we've seen like in other books?
Thank God.
Thank the Emperor that there was none of this. We are not worthy. Oh no, Veritas. Those bitches were worthy.
Well, but and whether they were or not, they didn't talk about it because that's not what they were there for. They were there to serve the Emperor and follow their duty. It was not about, I don't think I'm good enough to do this. No, it's, we have this duty. We must fulfill it.
And even when Dvorgin kind of says to her, like, I'm kind of waffling in my faith, she's like, no, you're fine. Go get him, Tiger. Like, I liked that instead of like, oh, heresy. No, she's just like, that's a cool story, bro. Need you to go out there and fight now.
Right.
Like, there's stuff for you to kill. I just really like the way he writes the sisters. They have a little bit of a sense of humor, but not... Actually, I guess not really a sense of humor so much as they have personality, though. Like, Veritas had a personality. Mm-hmm. Emmanuel had a personality.
Oh, man, I loved her.
Loved her.
That Palatine's like, okay, she's comes marching in. You just get out of the way.
Oh, yeah. And I like when Dvorgin's like, I technically outrank you guys, but...
Right?
Okay. Like, you managed to get the Mordians, who are some of the toughest bastards, which... That's another thing that stood out. I did notice that, like, Reboot Guilliman, of course, like, immediately, he has the Valhallans on his ship with him, and then he has the Mordians, aka the Prussians, with him. And then they mention the Catachan at one point, so you know that he shows up and is like, get me all the badasses of this galaxy here now. I love the Mordians. I think they're so cool. But I liked, and especially putting her against Dvorgin. So what did you think of his moment of weakness? Him refusing to give his wife a child, where he was like, this was my moment where my faith faltered.
Oh, his big sin. Okay.
That was kind of like what we typically see from the sisters.
Right. I mean, that's what he kept calling it. It's like the one how I sinned or my weakness of faith. And, I mean, I understand his point of view, but same time, though, he's about to go off to war. Like, you just give your wife like something. Although at the same time, if she's dead and gone, then most likely your child would have been too. So, you know, it's one of those things. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. You know, I can look back at 1,000 things in my past that I'm like, man, I should have committed to this, or I should have done that, or I should not have done this. But where does that get me? Nowhere. And he can, nowhere. I mean, I understand his regrets because that is his wife. I totally understand that. But at the same time, I was thinking, like, you're going to have to let this go.
You're going to have to let this go. Yeah, for sure. And, okay, so now let's compare this with Bucharest. Bucharest.
You know, I always said Bucharest in my head.
Sure. Choose your own adventure on this one, I think. Like, he's one of the most infamous figures from Warhammer 40k, from the Age of Apostasy, and yet I'm like...
Okay, I don't
know anything about how to say this name.
I have never heard of this guy before, so this was all new to me.
So, the Age of Apostasy... Actually, you know what I will say in here right now? I actually had that thought. As soon as they mentioned him, I was like, ooh, I don't know that Carrie knows who that is. They did a really good job summarizing it without the exposition fairies showing up. Well, no, seriously, okay? Like, a lot of times when they need to give you history, all of a sudden somebody leans in and is like, hey, guys, and it turns into an after-school special. So, but this I thought was really good with Tenebris, because remember, it's Tenebris who's kind of like, oh, yeah, this guy, like, look at the things these guys this did. Like, and there's kind of a chortle in the way that he says it, because, you know,
right.
This guy right here, right? It's interesting to see them address, like, how you... Because remember, Colquhoun talks about how it's kind of a means to get things done. And then you see the extreme version of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
With this guy.
Well, not just him, but all of Gathalamor.
Right. Well, and that did kill me at the end when it's, like, all the pilgrims and everybody else, the ghosts who are coming after them, and you're just like... Oh.
Well, even that woman that they took out, their captive, that they tortured out of the caverns, and one of the things she said was she said that we were starving, and these people came and they promised, you know, to take it out on the fat priests above. And what that really triggered in me was, man, it's a lesson that my geography teacher taught me in high school all this time ago, and I've never forgotten it. Because she said, she's like, if you're ever wondering why people turn to communism, she's like, let me tell you a story. She said, think of this mountain, and there's a super rich guy up top of the mountain, so like the fat priests here, has like the nice car, the fancy clothes, and all this money, and you're at the bottom of the mountain, and you're starving, and you have barely enough food to feed your kids, but you hear, hey, we'll all be the same. So what do you think? You think you're going to be up on that mountain with the guy. But what you don't realize is that when communism comes in, the government takes all that from him, and he's down there at the bottom with you now starving. And that to me is like such a great way to explain this chaos. So she's like, they promised us they were going to, you know, save us, take it from the fat priests. Well, no, now you're all suffering.
Right, exactly. And but like, along those lines, like, you understand a little bit about the Reign of Terror, right, in France. Like, you can totally get how people would be like, oh, we're going to punish those people who have everything? Well, I have nothing? Sign me up. And unfortunately, it's a very easy thing to get people to go along with, right? These people are starving. So, like, I don't know. We're going to make it all go away. Okay, cool. It's like, and most of these people, and this comes down to one of those conversations I think we have a lot too, is because people are so ignorant to chaos and ignorant to the warp and ignorant to the concept of traitor marines, and none of them even know. And like Bucharest, I feel like there might have been a little bit more security around that if anybody knew about it. But the fact that the Imperium's number one way of dealing with problems is let's all just close our eyes and pretend that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of what they do.
It is. And I do, as much as I struggled with Fabian at the beginning and end, I do like when he's our biggest problem? Oh, what?
The suppression of true knowledge, you see, he said to Kargathar, smiling again, ever the corpse god's modus operandi.
Yep. And it's...
And what is that? What is that saying? What is that saying? We say it all the time. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly. But also, I think just opening that doorway, right? And unfortunately, I think what they come selling, like Young, I hated Young, but I understood her.
Yes.
And I understood why she fell to this, right? Again, you've been powerless your whole life, and now suddenly, so your prayers and pleas were falling upon deaf ears, but now you have these other gods, and they are listening, and they do give gifts. So I hope that all the bad things happen to her and nobody but her. But, like, I mean, how can you deny it? I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm
it's true, but she's going to be she's going to be tricked like everybody else in the end. I mean, that's the only person who wins in this. It's like, again, like my teacher's analogy with communism. The only one who wins with this are the people in charge, and that's the chaos gods. That's the only people who win.
I did like that when Kargathar is talking about how he's like, all Lorgar wants is a world in which everybody worships the chaos gods. Everybody will be equal. Everybody will have gods answering them, and it's all going to be fine. And I think it's Akalor who's like, yeah, no, you're all going to be miserable and tormented. Like, but there's a certain almost adorable naivete to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That because of all the people who have seen the horrors that chaos can bestow upon people, they would, of all people, would be like, this not going to end well.
Well, he says that's what Lorgar wants, but who is his master?
I actually found that very interesting because he directly mentions that he serves Corfarin, and Corfarin fed him to the wolves here. But he does talk about it, and he actually talks like Corfarin is wanting to further Lorgar's. But Lorgar's he's been away.
That's not Lorgar. It's Corfarin.
Exactly. I'm like, Corfarin, or rather Lorgar, hasn't been heard from in 10,000 years. He's, having a me day. 10,000 years.
He's having a me millennia.
Pretty much. And so this could all just be Corfarin, right? Or maybe, I don't know. There's so many question marks.
Without a doubt, this is Corfarin. And I know I keep mentioning this. It's like you with Night Lords. I'm going to mention the Lorgar Primarch novel. That is all Corfarin was from the very beginning. He was a priest of the ruinous powers. That is all he wanted. He wanted his planet to do nothing but worship the ruinous powers, but under his guidance, you see.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Of course. You need to have someone who speaks for them, obvs.
Right. And so when Lorgar came around, that frightened him, especially because he's got that Primarch, so he's got this charisma, and people were turning to him, and he was actually really nice and always tried to help others. And then when he had the vision of the One, which we all know is the Emperor, and Corfarin was just like, crap. He's like, yeah, sure, we'll do the One. And then it actually wrote in the book that he put his hands behind his back and did the sign for the ruinous powers. He's had his fingers crossed behind his back.
Right. He's like a child.
But that's what it is for him. That's all he's wanted. He's wanted everyone to be worshiping the ruinous powers. And he says it's under Lorgar. He even said it in the Primarch novel, but he doesn't mean it. He has to say it's Lorgar because that's the only people are going to listen. But it's under him.
Right. And yeah, in a lot of ways. I think what we're saying is he's his own version of Bucharest.
Did he become his own demon prince? Did he become a demon prince?
No, because he has the same problem that same problem that Typhus has. You're adorable. I got a Primarch.
Right.
Sorry. Like, again, you're the fucking Ford. Excuse me. You're the Ford Pinto, and they already got the Maserati. Like, and you're like, but I'm a really good Ford Pinto. I don't explode when people hit me.
Wow. Old 80s references there, people.
One of my friend's dads drove a Ford Pinto when I was a child, and yeah, my parents were always like,
yeah, we actually watched
that the bumper was made of flint.
We actually watched Top Secret the other night, and there's that wonderful scene where the tank just goes ping at the end of the Pinto, and the thing just blows up.
Yeah, again, they made the bumper out of flint. It wasn't their problem. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk, because we kind of mentioned this with Akalor. Like, how does this team, like the dynamic, we get to see all these different personalities. How did this change your view on the Custodes a little bit?
Yes, in that, man, we thought the Space Marines were badass in battle. We hadn't seen anything yet. And I will say, when Akalor first went into battle, and he's ticking off how many people he's killed, and it goes off like how many seconds, and I mean, he gets mad. He's like, "You took mine. Like, I'm really ahead still." You know, it's amazing. They're a force. They're a crazy force. Like a Primarch force to be reckoned with, especially when the mob.
Close, huh?
The mob was coming after him. What did he do? He just ran right through them, stomping them along the way, because I guess when you're 10 feet tall, it doesn't, oh, this is cute. Look at them with their little sticks and stones.
Well, I thought of like Valerian in that second book, right? Where at the end there, where you're like, oh, jeez, he's terrifying.
Yeah.
As soon as they got to, like, when they all walked into that first part where they had to fight, I was like, this is going to be so bad.
Well, not only that, but when they're together, the perfect synchronicity these guys have. Like, they don't even need to speak. They just know exactly what to do to help the other one, know each other's fighting styles perfectly. I thought it was so arrogant in the beginning when Colquhoun was like, 5 is enough. He said, it's like, oh, okay. I think you're overestimating these guys. Well, no. 5 was enough.
No. I know I've mentioned this before, but Brothers of the Snake by Dan Abnett, there's like one of the first short stories. There's an issue on a planet, and they call for Space Marine help, and they send 1 Space Marine. And at first you're like, that's not really going to do anything. And no, it was enough. So when he was like, oh, 5 should be enough. Yeah, 5's probably enough.
That, and I have this other quote that I highlighted because it made me laugh so hard. It was from Vichelin. I don't know how you want to say his name.
AKA my favorite bro of the bunch.
Oh my God. He's amazing.
I loved him.
I can't find it right. Oh, wait, is that it? If there's one thing that the Adeptus Custodes do better than anything else, it is slay Space Marines.
That's his quote that I was just looking for. I loved that. Because I do love because he also says earlier, he has a quote where he's like, they're just all flawed creatures. Like, the disdain that they have. It's funny. It's funny to me, and I'm about to quote Phantom Menace, but sorry in advance. There's always a bigger fish, because like the Space Marines kind of look down their nose at unaugmented humans, right? Like, ugh, they're so flawed and petty and weird. And then the Custodes are looking down their noses like, ugh, Space Marines are so flawed and we're just excellent at killing them. It's interesting, and I did like Rakar Gathar is just like, ugh, you guys are brainwashed and ridiculous. Like, I liked that there's kind of this, this rivalry between them, and the Custodes are terrifying. And I did like that they were also awe-inspiring. I mean, when the sisters see them, I thought that was lovely. And their reaction, how they're just like, some of them are like, Well, Can I say really quickly that my favorite scene in that whole book, though, with Akalor, is when he gives the poncho to Kesh, and she's
I highlighted that, and she's
goes, like, I can't ruin it, and they're like, it is a gift.
And I have it highlighted. It is just a cloak.
I loved that so much because everybody's like, oh, Senpai noticed you,
right?
And then it is just a cloak. Yeah. I was like, oh, Pumpkin, you have no idea. I also did like when his astropath is, or was it the astropath? No, it was the ship mistress. When they all go down, and she's like, God, they're naive.
Ship mistress was awesome.
Yeah. So was there. I did like, though, to see like how much that they do rely on people, just like normal like bros, because they're not going to do all of this petty stuff themselves. They have a very specific purpose,
right? Mm-hmm.
And I really would have liked to have seen more of Akalor and his astropath, because when he's like, she is very powerful, and with that comes the inability to hold her tongue. I was like, I like her already.
Well, I cracked up when they translated, and she immediately bends over, starts throwing up, and someone pings him, is like, do you have whatever her name is? And he's like, yeah. I was like, can we speak to her? She's busy.
She's busy. And when Vikellen comes in, and he's like, oh. I did like that. I found it interesting, though, and this is another book similar to Valerian, where they're getting out, they're doing stuff, and all of a sudden somebody's like, we should have been doing this all along. Mm-hmm. Like, we are long overdue.
Well, they even talk about that with Vikellen, that Akalor has to kind of like calm him down, because he's like pacing like a tiger. Like, he feels like he's like, this is what I've been meant to do forever, and now that we're here, I'm just ready to go out there and do it. It's like, yes,
I liked how excited he was.
Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is exactly it. This is what the Emperor
just loved how
had in mind.
excited he was for like every encounter. He's like, oh my God, yes, Queen. So, do you think the antagonists were effective here? Because you have Locke, you have Kargathar, you have Tenebris, and you have Yang. And yes, I feel the need to like lean into the East Coast and be like, Yang. Because Yang sounds weird to me. You gotta appreciate the H in her name. Do you think they were effective? They were all very different.
I think Kargathar and Locke definitely were.
Mm-hmm.
Yang, I felt like she had like one part in the beginning, and then after that, I don't know, window dressing. I'm not really even sure. Tenebris, I didn't even really like him.
Tenebris was kind of a douche.
And that's actually his attitude about a lot of things really surprised me for an Iron Warrior.
Wait, Tenebris?
Wasn't he an Iron Warrior?
Mm-mm. No, remember they keep referring to him as a mutant, and he has the big long hands, and he's definitely.
I thought he was
some type of,
because Kargathar hated that he had reported to him, and I thought it was because he was not a word bearer; he was a Iron Warrior.
God, if I totally missed this, I'm gonna be like really upset. But because he is the he's like the head psyker to which is really confusing, because there is also a Tenebris that is like there was a gene stealer cult that was Tenebris, I think, short story or something like that, and I was like, what? I need you guys to pick a name. But because remember, he's just another one of the witches that Abaddon employs. And I immediately thought of what's her name?
Oh, you know what? Okay.
What's her name? Morgana.
All right, so I just
the
found
Weeping
it.
Woman.
Tenebris Sorcerer, the Hand of Abaddon.
Right.
Okay, so he's not. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't think he was.
I don't know where I got that. Who knows?
Well, yeah. But there's so many names to keep straight in this. But the thing that I felt kind of bad for the guy, because he was super arrogant, and all I wanted to do was say to him, like, I'm sure Moriana, from her planet of hell that she lives in and has been exiled, would like to talk to you. Like, he kind of reminded me of a trophy wife. Like, enjoy it while you have it and while you're in his favor, my friend. But I just found him to be kind of... He was a little mustache twirly for me, and I understand that he's the hand of Abaddon, so he's supposed to be a little mustache twirly. But I found Karkathar and Locke much more compelling and much more interesting, which,
yeah,
congratulations, Andy Clark. You made me actually compelled by another word bearer.
Sometimes they get interesting.
I guess. Jeez. But so did you understand why everybody was there? All of the bad guys. Like, obviously they want to get this god-killing weapon, right? Did you like any of them, though? Like, did you understand why they were there?
I mean, that's really all it was, though, right? It's just the god-killing weapon, and they just kind of converted the planet, all these cultists, just to do their bidding, and then they're like, well, we got it. Yeah, we got a plane to catch.
Peace. Pretty much.
So y'all have fun. Like, they're like, oh, we lost the planet. It's like, did we? Oh, okay. Later.
Okay. We're going to talk more about that later, because I was a little surprised by that. Actually, let's just go ahead and talk about that. So yeah, when Tenebris is like, oh, yeah, we did lose the planet. Good thing that's not what we came here for. I have to admit that I was like, oh, I fully bought into the story that they were there to kill Guilliman. That they were like, we've got this gnarly, nasty weapon. But as soon as he was like, no, dear, I said this was a god killer. I was like, oh, damn it. Totally makes sense.
Right.
That you would maybe want to try to get that onto Terra.
But I thought that, Guilliman would have been like Alderaan. Gotta test it on something first.
Right. Wait, what was the place that they test? Scarith. From Rogue One. It could have been Scarith. So here's the question I have to ask, because I'm actually a little compelled by this idea. Do you think this weapon and like the idea that Abaddon has that this is now going to be the macguffin for this Dawn of Fire series?
Okay, help me with the timeline here. This
takes place...
Does this still take place before Dark Imperium, or are we now saying...
Yes, because Dark Imperium takes place 12 years after Guilliman awoke, and this takes place, like, they've basically just left the Sol system.
Okay.
Right? Because the first book was them on Terra leaving the Sol... Well, backing up. Watchers of the Throne is him arriving on Terra. Dawn of Fire, Avenging Sun, was of him kind of getting all of his stuff together and then leaving the Sol system. Then this? It'd be really awesome.
Well... Then
dates.
Seriously. So I think you're right. I think that hunting down this... All right. This is like going down a rabbit hole full of questions here.
And then Mortarion shows up and messes up everything.
Well, I think that this could be what starts like with the whole Indomitus. Even though Dark Imperium said the point of Indomitus was to try to figure out a way to close the rift, it seems like we got a whole bunch of other crap going on here, so maybe that's not really what it's about. But I guess that's what happens when you write something 100 years in the future first, and then they decide to retcon that to 12 years in the future. So we have...
Don't worry, they're releasing new editions that take care of that.
Yeah, sure. So now we have this. And obviously they got away. The bad guy got away with the thing. And I'm not sure who all knows exactly what he has. I guess Vichellan does. Vichellan does. He does.
He does. Because remember, he comes across them as they bamf.
Right. So he's the only one. And the ship mistress, because she witnessed what happened to the rest of the fleet. So it's going to be a matter of, so is the next book going to be these adventures of, we got to get this ring back before it gets to Abaddon?
Hunt the One Ring. That just dawned on me.
I mean, it's not wrong.
It's better than the 2 ring.
But so then where my questions come in is, what the fuck does this have to do with the Necrons? Like, there's a whole book.
I got nothing. I got nothing.
Book behind me. I see the chartreuse behind you. It's called Antagonists, and it's about Necrons. So, I need help here.
They mentioned Neolith at one point.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
I got nothing. I got nothing. And until you said that, it didn't even dawn on me. I don't know. Or I don't know if it's like, okay, so maybe this book sets up that leaving the soul system, oh, by the way, somebody just created a super weapon and tried to take one of your shrine worlds. And then he's going to have another book where it's like, oh, by the way, the Necrons are a problem. Oh, by the way, Mortarion just took over part of you. Like, one of the things that they've talked about is that the Imperium is beset upon all sides. So maybe each one of these books is just going to be a, guess what else? Like, remember how we always joke about Robbie Bobby's voicemail?
Yeah.
Really? Maybe this series is going to be his voicemail. Like, these are all the things that he has to deal with right now. Like, let's not even talk about the Dark Angels. Whatever the Dark Angels are doing. Like, let's not even talk about that right now. Like, maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is just setting up all the different problems.
Or the truth behind the Thousand Sons slaughter, you know.
Right?
See, what else happened?
These space wolves are awakening. The sleeper has awoken.
What else is happening and all that? Nothing. There was...
Oh, God. We have made so many jokes about Robbie Bobby. Oh, by the way... A word bearer that you imprisoned.
Oh, right. That, yes.
1,000 years ago, assuming they decide to remember that. But, I mean, maybe that really is what this is that Indomitus, it's like, look, he's got 99 problems, and Ivrain ain't one. Or is she? Like, let's be real here. Because you have the Eldari playing their little games of, are they friends? Aren't they friends? I don't know. Depends on the day.
Well, they are... when it benefits them. And
right.
And Reboot was very clear about that. He was just like, I don't trust them either, but it doesn't mean we're not listening to what they have to say.
Right, for sure. That's my only answer I got, and I know that sounds like a cop-out, like, as to where the Necrons are. But maybe that really is the thing, is it's like, look, there are so many problems.
I was like, I didn't think of it either until I started going through the timeline in my head. And I was like, wait a minute. But
wait a minute.
The Necron's supposed to be this big thing. That's why they made all these new models and they've done all this stuff. And they had, Indomitus and then the Infinite and the Divine. Like, how is this all coming together? Or maybe it's just not.
Maybe. They'll jump off that bridge when they get there.
Okay.
And we'll have some retcons.
Oh, geez.
Okay, so... like, a lot of people got killed in this book. But then a lot of people didn't. So, I think we all know this, but whose death hurt the most?
Akalor. Because that shocked me.
It shocked me, and I was like, why?
I had the same reaction to this as the first time I read Game of Thrones before the TV series came out, people. Like, we're talking about...
You mean the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series?
Yes, it was the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. But yes, when they beheaded Ned Stark, I was like, that did not just happen.
That one upset me, and I was like, what? The one that I think got everybody else, and it didn't really affect me that much, was when they killed Robb. The Red Wedding, right? Because I remember my husband, like, threw the book across the room. He was so angry and so shocked. And I got to it and was just like, bah! And then I wasn't like that upset by it. There were a few other deaths in that series that affected me more.
Yeah, the Red Wedding, the extent of it was shocking, but it didn't surprise me. Robb messed that whole thing up.
Yes. Thanks, Rob. But not you, Guilliman. You're doing fine. Akalor shocked me, and I was really upset by it because I liked him, and I thought he was such... Like, he reminded me of, like, a counterpart to Valerian. Like, I'm going to be a guy who goes out and gets stuff done in the Primarch's name because I can see the bigger picture. And Kilt.
I kind of liked him because he, to me, kind of embodied all the different types of Custodes that we've seen. You know, he's a brilliant fighter like Fechellan. He has great faith like Lucerne, even though it's not the same, but...
Not the same, but he's much more tolerant of it.
Yes. And yet he still has the same skepticism that Colquhoun. He was such a great, foil for Colquhoun. So they're kind of like kept each other in check and balance. And
very much agree.
And so, yeah, Fechellan, I think he's obviously going to be stepping up now and kind of taking that role. We could tell that with the conversation with Colquhoun. But it's not the same because he doesn't have that same optimism that Akalor had.
Maybe he'll get it, though. Like, maybe this is that pivotal moment for him. So Jessavain, obviously, I was like, good. Kargathar, I was really pleased that he died.
Well, we knew he was going to. I mean, he said it often.
And the fact that it's the sisters who take him out.
Okay, that is the best killing demon host scene. God. I mean, yes. I actually hate that term, chef's kiss, but yes, it was exactly that.
It was so poetic and so beautiful. And the fact that you have these Custodes that are throwing themselves at him. He's just killed everyone's favorite Custodes.
Fechellan is really wounded and not doing so well.
Seriously wounded. And it's the sisters who come in. The sisters who have kind of been, like the Custodes, especially Fechellan, has kind of been like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. But yeah, it's them. And I do like the concept of like the one faith battling against the other faith and winning.
Just the fact it was one shot and said the Emperor protects. That's so beautiful.
It was so beautiful. The way he described it with the shell exploding, and you're like,
and talk about how like shocked Kargathar was. Like, did you just shoot me?
To be fair, right? Like, I'm fighting I'm fighting literally the custodians of the Emperor. Like, I almost said handmaids, but I was like, no, it's the sisters. But he's fighting the guys, right? These are like more powerful than Space Marines. And it's the unaugmented humans who are armored in faith. Just loved it. Okay. Can we talk about this, though? So first off, I have to reference my line down here because I am a horrible person.
You are a horrible person, which is why I have my line.
I'm reading the book, and when Asawi falls off that corpse mountain of just doom, I could smell that scene. Just to be clear, and it smelled like getting on the ice with a bunch of teenage girls who've just been playing hockey. That's what it smells like. Okay, that's what that smelled like. But I, like, when he fell down, my first thought was, take one down, kill it around, 9,999 custodians left on the wall. My husband tried to shove me out of bed and told me I had to go sleep outside. Joke's on him. I didn't. But anyways, it
didn't help, though, because I still was not over Akalor's death. And then you texted me that and was like, no, it's too soon. I can't. Can't deal with this.
That's fair. I thought it was funny. And then Kesh, like when Kesh, because you're just like, oh, they killed Kesh. When it's revealed that they lived, and it like kind of an offhanded way too. I was like, oh, why?
Yeah, I was kind of like, it ruined a lot of the shock.
Right?
I think, yeah. Because to me it was kind of funny. They're like, yeah, she kind of crawled out with a one-eyed Custodes. I snickered there.
I did snicker at that because that sounds like a joke in the making. Like, what do you call a one-eyed Custodes? I have no idea what you would call them, but give us your answers below. But it sounded like the lead-in to like a joke or something like that.
It just...
There's no way that she comes back from that the
same. Well, they're talking about how high up it was. I mean, regardless of the ghosts that were swarming around her, I mean, again, I'm going to reference the Killing Ground. We've seen what ghosts can do to people.
Yes.
I didn't see how that was possible, especially since when they fell, what is she on? She's on his back. What is he going to land on? His back.
Well, no, she's not on his back anymore, because remember, they tried to launch her up to Akalor, and Akalor tries to grab her. He's falling. She falls into the corpses. Well, but to your point, remember, she had to ride on his back because there were so many jutting out bones and just icky. Like, there's literally not enough hand sanitizer or bleach. And to that point, like, I mean, the sisters, like, I can't imagine that the sisters don't give her the old Yeller treatment. Because, like, you fell into...
Well, they also talk about how that...
mountain.
They were talking about how her mind was probably never going to be the same. It's like, then why let her live?
Yeah. Like, that's going to be a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest moment where somebody's just going to have to put the pillow there and just make it.
God, you're so wrong.
Don't worry. They'll also pull the water fountain out of the ground and throw it into the window. Okay? We'll make the circle complete. I just like, that's a really nice and beautiful scene. Like, that whole ending there is really beautiful, and I really just made that sound trite. Anyways. But yeah, like, they're gonna have to... I want her to survive, and I want that Mordian, strength to come in, but you fell into a pile of corpses and ghosts, and you had to fight your way out of it with a one-eyed custodian.
The real story there is, how did he lose his eye?
Oh, remember? He got stabbed through it, and which is also a badass moment, because somebody stabs him through the eye, and he's just like...
I don't remember that.
Happens when they're climbing up the mountain. Something, I can't remember what, but something just like I think it was one of the corpses, like, reaches out, the ghost.
Yes.
And puts that thing through his eye, and he's just like... Pfft.
Right, because I thought then he was killed.
That's metal. Which also, like, you can kind of understand why I thought Akalor was going to be fine. Dude just shrugged off, like, into the eye. Like, your eyeball, like, there's just a little bit of bone at the back of your eye before your brain.
Mm-hmm. I know, because when it happened, like I said, I thought he was killed. And I was like...
Same, too. So the fact that he's like...
It's a flesh wound.
It's but a flesh wound. Probably. Now he's going to have a badass augmentic. That's awesome. But, yeah. Akalor could have shut... There's going to be hope for him, okay? I did.
But they buried him.
Okay, well, this whole book was about digging up somebody's grave, so checkmate.
But did he have a ring? Because someone's going to dig him up without that ring.
Oh, that's a good point. I guess if he'd had an accursed ring. It wasn't the One Ring. I get nothing.
Unless they take his sword, maybe? Maybe they want his sword.
Ooh.
But could anybody besides a Custodian or a Primarch wield the sword?
I think Guilliman's probably the only person who could pick it up, and even then it'd be a little small on him.
Yeah, well, he's got Daddy's sword, so he's not trading his any time now.
Yeah, I've got a flaming sword of doom. So let's talk. I want to talk quickly about the intro and the outro, because the intro, we get to see Reboot Guilliman, and it really sets it up for this. Were you surprised that he didn't feature more prominently in this book?
No, because...
Really?
Right, well, because it was kind of a setup that he was going to get to this planet, but basically we needed them to get there and prepare it for him and make it ready. So at that point, I was not that surprised. I was surprised he was not at the end, because I know he was there because Fabian was there.
And they kept, I guess on one hand, it was kind of a subversion of expectations, because they kept mentioning, right? Like, we just got to hold out till the Primarch gets here. We just got to hold out.
That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for him to get there.
I didn't realize that my cat was in the room, and all of a sudden something started moving over my shoulder. So I had a moment.
No, I kept waiting, for that moment that he was going to arrive. Mm-hmm. He was going to teleport down, and it's like, we got a real fight now. And he's just, kind of like when in Avengers Infinity War, when Thor beams down and Bruce is like, you're all screwed now. And that's what I was waiting for, was that moment.
Right. I kind of liked it, though, because at first I was like, oh, well, that's surprising. But then I was like, you have to remember that Robbie Bobby is surrounded by competent people.
Mm-hmm. He's made sure of it.
He has made sure of it. He has chosen his allies well. And so I was actually really glad to be like, oh, didn't really require it. Like, Colquhoun jumps down to just kind of clean up, right? Like, is this all under control? Okay, good. But they didn't really need Daddy to come down and save everybody.
Right.
Which was nice. Mm-hmm. Again.
And I wasn't even sure how it was going to end, because when Dvorkin and Lucerne are talking, and Dvorkin's like, I guess this is it. And Lucerne's like, yep. Okay.
My one thing about Lucerne is that, so my daughter is obsessed with Persona 5. So if anybody's played Persona 5, this will make sense to you. There's a character in there named Haru, but my daughter always calls her no screen time. So whatever you talk about, she was like, oh yeah, she gets no screen time gets a new special and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. Lucerne toward the end there was kind of no screen time. I was like, you seem kind of awesome, and I really hope you come back in another story, because you did not get your due in this one.
No, but he was funny at least.
He was funny. I did like the Iron Warrior's reaction to him.
Well, and he saved everybody in his tank, because when he realized what was going on, it was him who was like, we got to get out. And, burst out and basically come onto the scene. They were like, whoa, what is this? We weren't expecting really tall space Marines.
I did like that, where they're like, ew, what the heck is wrong with them? I did really like that.
And I actually thought it was funny, because when they did burst out and Locke is instantly like, yellow. Just an instant.
Dorn sons. Nothing else matters. Them. Look, some rivalries are just too good to get rid of. But Fabian especially, I felt like in the beginning I was like, ooh, we're really going to get to see, oh, no. Until the very end when he shows up. And I really liked it up to a point, but when he starts talking with Dvorkin and Dvorkin's like, let me tell you about my daughter Kish, I was like, I don't really care about your surrogate daughter.
I thought how that was really well done. I thought that was super sweet. And just the fact that he had to tell his story and he didn't know what to tell, and so Fabian's just trying to kind of relax him, get all out, but then he ends up just unraveling the stoic Mordian and gets him to just talk, just spill everything.
I did like that Fabian, he casually, he does casually commit what would be considered to be heresy. That would be a commissar would shoot him for what he said. So Fabian's just go on.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that Fabian was cool about it, I guess. That, maybe these are just not the times. These are just not times where we have the luxury right now.
Well, and, when he gets there and he sees the chaos going on and he looks to Lucerne, he's like, what happened here? He goes, victory. He's like, I hate to see what it looked like if we lost. So I think he's kind of got that shock there. And
because this one is stable, and he is like, this is stable.
Mm-hmm. So he sees, Dvorkin, who, is has half of his face messed up, scarring and everything else.
Right.
And, which I now get to see exactly what that looks like, thanks to finally getting my book here, because it has lovely illustrations.
By the way, Veritas looks badass.
Oh, yeah, she does. So probably seeing all that, I would almost think that Fabian has a moment of empathy. Just this guy has seen so much worse stuff than I will ever see in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to let him speak.
Right. It did kind of remind me, and I think we've all had those moments where you start talking to somebody and they just have something that they need to get off of their chest. Like they just have a thing they need to talk to someone about, right? And so it's kind of like this, all right, like exercise your demon. Let's just... And his job, and you know what it actually reminded me a little bit of? So do you remember in Horus Rising when Euphrates is first talking to Garviel Loken and he gives her like a recount of stuff and she's like, is there anything that like ever inspired you, filled you with wonder? And he starts telling her about like the Mardi Gras that he went to where he's like giant paper hats. And she's like, well, tell me more. So this idea that he is a historiator, like he is there to tell the history, but there is this human element to it too that is worthy of listening to. And maybe he doesn't record it, but it's worthy of telling.
Right.
And I did like that. That did remind me of that. I guess I wasn't really that invested in his and Kesh's relationship, not romantic relationship, obviously, but so I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. But I did like that parody and that feature that Fabian would be like, okay, talk.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that. But that, I guess, I don't know. It was like, action, action, action. Whew. Let's talk about this guy's relationship with this girl. It's just kind of like, oh.
Well, to me, it just kind of, it wrapped it up nicely because Dvorgin, was leaving this planet not in a good way for many, many reasons. And you knew he was always tortured, but he kept talking about how he had all these emotions that he's not supposed to have because he's Mordian. And you could tell he needed something to just let it out. And so when they said, he's going to be talking to Fabian, I was like, this is the perfect way for Dvorgin to put his demons to rest.
Right. Okay, now that you say it that way, I guess I am kind of softening to it. But my initial reaction when I finished it is I was like, But I am a little softening to it. The intro, I guess I thought was going to be more important. But then I guess in hindsight, too, the idea that maybe the Eldari just show up every now and then are like, you need to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Guilliman listens. He goes. I did like when everybody's getting like really sassy with the Eldar. And he's like, I believe I said, shut up and listen. Like, he was not having any of this.
Like, did I stutter here?
Did I stutter here? I'm sorry. I'm the Primarch's son. You guys are just a bunch of
Emperor's
Primarch's son. The Emperor's son. I'm a Primarch, the Emperor's son. Everyone's just like, bah! But it also shows you like how ingrained that is into them.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was so great also with that is that when he does speak up and Fabian remarks that his presence and his voice makes it impossible for anyone to even look at him in the face. It's almost like instant, oh, daddy's yelling at us. Just this shame.
That reminded me of a scene I had to point out from that scene. When the guy gets up to talk and calls, like, I could pull up a map, and then he keeps, like, talking over the guy, and finally, Reboot has to be like, knock it off. He's like, okay.
Fucking Call, man.
I love Call. He is just, like, slowly but surely becoming kind of that eccentric grandpa, nutty professor character.
I'm with Colquan on that. I don't trust him.
I don't trust him either, but I like the hell out of him. Like, I think he is well-intentioned trouble. Still trouble.
I don't even know
well-intentioned.
I don't even know if he's well-intentioned.
I think he is. But having said that, we all know what the road to hell is paved with. So I think his arrogance is going to get him into trouble, but that scene cracked me up, and I really wanted to see more Call. So, on one hand, this book is definitely 8 out of 10, but I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 10 for not enough Call. More Call, please.
Call has his own book, all right, so...
Yes, but...
I'm sure...
And if they could go ahead and resurrect Akalor, that might get it those last
Guy
few
Haley
points.
is writing up something right now about Call.
Who?
I'm sorry. Guy Haley. He's He's writing up something about Call right now.
There's not like a clever thing to call Andy Clark. Overall, I really liked it. I liked the tone. I have decided that my favorite Andy Clark, I loved what he did with almost said the Hydra Legion. I really loved what he did. I loved what he did with them. I love how he gives personality to the Space Marines, but I really love how he handles the sisters. I feel comfortable saying that I think right now he's really the only person who understands them. That they don't have to be these wrist-slashing zealots. And they don't really, I mean, they're zealous.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, he makes them feel more human, I guess. I want to read more of his sister
Makes
stuff.
them feel more, what I feel like they're supposed to be. And that's almost kind of the female counterpart to the Space Marines.
Kind of, yes. Like, this is what's available to you guys. And I make a lot of jokes about them being nuns with guns. But that really is what they are. They are people who just have the holy fire of the Emperor in them. And they are willing to put their life on the line as readily as any Space Marine is. And I know that there's always that thing like, we should have female Space Marines. And I'm like, why would you want female Space Marines when you have the sisters?
Who are incredible.
Incredible. And like, this will be my one quick little rant here, is like one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Universe. Initially, they definitely let her go too much into as soon as she got involved with Civil War, I was like, I'm out, was Kamala Khan. She was the new Ms. Marvel because she was a devoutly religious character, but it wasn't like, you know, she never had like her faith challenged or like anything like that. She was just a character who like girded herself in faith and tradition, and that was just part of who she was, and it was one of her strengths, which I really liked about her. I thought it was very interesting. So more of this, please. I just want more sisters books.
I want more sisters books like this.
Yeah, fair.
I don't want to read another Mark. I don't want to read another Mark of Faith.
I really cannot handle the Repentia. Like, if I have to see another Repentia, I'm gonna. Actually, so along those lines, giving you guys a little insight into our thought process, we were originally going to read Astaroth, Angel of Mercy by Guy Haley. Hello, Kat. But it's not widely available right now, which seems kind of lame to read something. So we were going to do Divination, but I don't think either one of us wanted to read anything about the Repentia right now.
I just don't really care about background stories before all this happened. That's just me.
I know that I've said this a lot. I really struggle with prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I've mentioned a lot of times I have Horus Heresy fatigue. Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm super into it. Kitty ears. So instead, we decided to take like a wild diversion and go with the Deacon of Wounds, because we both just picked this up today too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shiny hardcover, and you know what? I need more David Annandale in my life, and this podcast needs more David Annandale. He is woefully underrepresented for as much as we enjoy reading him as an author.
It's true.
So,
it's true. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, especially since it's a shorter book. I need a break, y'all.
Read some beefy books.
I mean,
recently. That was a part of this thought process.
I mean, this and of course, yeah, Avenging Sun was huge. Thank God that we're not reading Siege of Terra as part of this.
I picked up Mortis. My husband's going through it right now. I read parts of it because I had a Perturbo moment. But Mortis is like...
Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it.
Could have been this long.
I couldn't believe it when I picked up my copy.
Yeah. I have very strong feelings about the Siege of Terra. So it's a lot of filler. And if I never see Euphrates Killer again, it'll be too soon. Anyways, want to take us out, Carrie?
Yes, I think I will. So, and I just realized I never wrote up my closing. That's the week that this has been, people. Yeah. So
it has been a week.
Yeah,
Wait.
So thank you all so much for listening to our podcast, Gate of Bones by Andy Clark. So stay tuned for next time when we read Deacon of Wounds by the wonderful David Annandale. We are not affiliated with the Black Library or Games Workshop or any of its other affiliates. You can find us on our website at wh40kbookclub.com. You can also find us on our vidcast on YouTube. The podcast on literally anywhere you can find podcasts. And if you like what you listen to or like what you watch, please please subscribe to us on YouTube or give us a review and all those wonderful things that we all just love on the website, again on YouTube or on wherever you get podcasts. And please remember that we also sorry, I'm trying to remember everything. We also write about other books that we are reading and our other thoughts about Warhammer 40k on the website. So please stay a while and read from a crack. And with that, I am still Alfarius.
And you can now get you some chartreuse. But don't ask how it ties into this.